First we talk about crack preparation, and you want to remove any flaking concrete, paint, or coatings 1 to 2 inches on either side of the crack. And for best results, do this on a dry surface. The surface of the concrete wall should be dry. We're not worried about inside the wall, that can be wet. Lay out your materials before starting, especially and specifically the surface ports and gloves and glasses. You want to remove all the plugs off the surface ports. Set them off to the side in a pile. Try to keep them together. And before working with the materials, make sure to put gloves on your hands. We're only going to mix enough here in the first batch to put on the bottom of the surface ports and attach the ports to the wall. We're going to put the ports, as you're going to see, about 8 to 10 inches apart. You're probably going to use about 8 or 10 ports on this wall. 8's probably enough. The foam's thin, travels quite a bit, expands quite a bit. Could have no problem filling all the way up. So you see here, we're not mixing a real lot at a time. Maybe 1/8 of the jars. And then we mix from outside to in. This just keeps it clean and together. Mix about 30 seconds till we get a nice uniform brownish gray color. Try to keep the trowel as clean as possible. Just makes for a smoother application. Spin the port in there just to get a bead of material around the edge. Make sure you don't plug the hole there. Just gently place it on the wall. Again, we're putting them about 10 inches apart, really. And that's adequate right there. If you have a really thin one at the bottom, maybe you can put an extra one in at the bottom. We're most worried about the bottom. It tends to leak more than the top does. Rarely would you see a crack leaking over 3 or 4 feet off the ground. We still want to fix the whole crack, but usually they leak more towards the bottom. Then we start applying it. You only need about 1 inch wide. We don't press it real hard. 1/8 of an inch thick is adequate. You do not want to press this into the crack and make it paper thin. You'll get pinhole leaks. Try to work quickly so you can leave that cardboard with no material on it. Again, just works nicer when it's nice and clean. And notice we're wiping that trowel off. Here, keeping the trowel real clean before that sets up on that trowel. And we go to mix again. Now we should note, you're going to know the surface seal is ready for injection, and it might be 3 or 4 hours, but it'll be fingernail hard. You try to dent it with a fingernail and you won't be able to, you'll know you're ready for repair. You'll know you're ready for the injection part of the repair. Again, mixing out to in, smearing a little bit on the wall at a time, somewhat thick, keep moving. There's a spider crack there you can barely see, we cover that up. If you missed it, that's okay, the foam will still plug. It expands and plugs. Somewhat error proof. Pay special attention to around the ports. Just make sure you cover the neck and the base. You don't have to use an excessive amount of material, just make sure it's evenly distributed around it. And again, remember, fingernail hard is what we're looking for after we've applied all the surface paste and begin to inject. The last step, we put a little bit of duct tape at the top, so when you go to rip the surface seal back off, it's a good starting point, which you should be able to do a couple hours after the foam has been injected. Now cut the tip off, just need to create a hole, not a big one. You can use a utility knife. Always make sure you cut away from yourself. put the cap on, and then beginning with the bottom port, we're going to gently and gradually feed into the bottom or first port, waiting for it to come out the second port. We should use one tube about every 4 to 5 feet. Once it comes out the second port, plug the first port and move to the second port and continue to inject. If you get a blowout, simply cap that port, move to the next port, and continue injecting. The foam is, again, somewhat error proof, so it'll expand a lot, and just because you have a little bit of a blowout, you'll still have a successful repair. We're going to do that all the way up the wall. Start with the first one, move to the second one, cap the first one, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 10. And then a couple of notes. Make sure they're not blocked. And that's it. You can see traces of the foam. It expands significantly and moves all the way to the outside. It's a complete full depth repair. And you can use the plastic trowel to do this, actually, to remove the surface seal. Do it within 24 hours. Ideally, if you can do it an hour or two after you've injected the urethane, it'd be great. In terms of injection, some might call that a hairline crack you see there, but that's a larger crack for the urethane to go through. It'll go through that readily. And there's foam in there. Just as you peel the surface seal, it's gonna pull a little bit out of the crack. If you want to improve the look of that, you can get a light colored concrete patch and just smear it over the area, and you can make it disappear. If you smeared it over that whole square there, it would go away. And that's a completed repair done like a professional. Won't leak again.